Hello, and welcome to Season 5, Episode 1 of the Midwest Gaming Classic Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Garris, panel director of the Midwest Gaming Classic. In the first half of today's episode, we're kicking things off with a genuine piece of gaming history. Back in 2016, Terry and Dan Diebold brought the legendary Nintendo PlayStation prototype to the Midwest Gaming Classic, the very first time it was ever shown publicly in the United States. 1 year later, in 2017, the Diebold's returned, this time with hardware legend Ben Heck to fill us in on everything that had happened since, where the prototype had traveled, what had been discovered, and the newest twists in its unbelievable journey. Then, in the second half of the episode, we shift gears and team up with our friends from the Watch Out for Fireballs podcast. Hosts Gary Butterfield and Kole Ross join us to explore the Super Nintendo classic Pilotwings. For the MGC audience, they take a closer look at this unique and often overlooked launch title, an oddly relaxing, quietly challenging gem in Nintendo's library. And you know what? Enough of me talking. Why don't we get to the podcast?
In 2016, the Midwest Gaming Classic was the first United States location to host Terry and Dan Diebold, the finders of the Nintendo PlayStation prototype. In 2017, Dan and Terry returned to us, and they were joined this year by Ben Heck to describe just some of the things that happened to the console since last year.
I'm Terry Diebold, my son Dan Diebold. We own the Nintendo PlayStation prototype, as all of you are aware of. And our buddy Ben here, he's the one that actually got everything up and running for us. My little buddy Benny. They'll be bowing all the way out of here, trust me. Pretty much how I got this, our company went bankrupt, and when they did, I was actually, I'll make it a quick version for you, or I'll even let my son tell, because I can get away, I carried away for an hour. As a matter of fact, I'll let him take over. No, okay. They had done an online auction, and I wanted to get involved on it. And to be in on an online auction, you had to sit out in an auditorium like you guys are doing right now. And the stuff I was bidding on was actually plates, cups, and saucers from the boardroom, silver lined. A lot of it was brand new still, because when you got 10 board members, you buy 2 or 3 of each. So I was in charge of my VP put me in charge of packing up all that stuff out of the board members' conference rooms. And when it showed up on screen, it showed 3 DocuSafe boxes with the lids open and the plates, cups, and saucers and everything in there. And the bid started at 25, I said 50, it went to 65, I said 75, and then stopped. I'm like, damn, that was easy. But they probably thought, hey, look, this guy, 3 boxes, $75, he's nuts. They didn't read the small print, because since I packed all the stuff, I knew how many extra boxes there were. So when I won the bid, I went back and saw the guys to pay for it, and there was this big-ass lot. I'm like, nah, man. I said, what's going on here? I didn't pack this stuff up. They're like, no, this is your lot. I was like, apparently instead of making more lots, they just made it bigger. So it took me 2 carloads to get everything home. So everything in that I had signed and put my name to on the boxes, I just set aside, and stuff that I had no idea, no writing on it. I started opening boxes. One of them had like 250, 300 music CDs still wrapped in cellophane from back in the 90s. Another one had like 30, 40 games that was owned by Olaf Olsson, who was the president of Sony back in the day. There were some 3DO and PlayStation ones. A lot of them are still wrapped in plastic. And then another one I opened up had some shoes and ties in it from Olaf. And then I opened up another box, and it had this unit in there, along with the one and only controller and the boot cart. And at that point, when I saw it, I said, oh, this is cool, but anytime I tried to find anything out about it online, it just showed concept art. And then one day, my son's on Reddit, he's in the forum, and I'll let him take over from here.
Yeah, I saw this post about how Sony and Nintendo used to work together, and I was like, hey, I think I have one of those in my dad's attic, and of course nobody believed me. So I called my dad, asked him to send me some pictures. He had this terrible cell phone, and sent me these blurry pictures. I was like, no way I can post these online. So a couple months went by, I went back to my dad's house, took some more pictures, posted them on Reddit. And the rest is history, really. I made a quick little YouTube video, got like 1 million views. Just like the worst video ever, probably, to get 1 million views. But yeah, and then last year was our first convention here, and we met the wonderful Ben Heck. And the first thing he asked me was, when are you going to let me take that thing apart? I was like, oh, well, maybe I should talk to my dad first. So we conversed for a while and ended up on the Ben Heck show, and I guess I'll just let Ben take it from here.
Yeah, so I was here last year for the talk, and I really wanted to know more information about the unit, and at the time you guys didn't really have that, so I thought, hey, if we work with you, we can learn more about it and try to get it running properly, and also you'll have more information when you go to shows. So that was kind of the idea. So in June of last year, you guys came up to Madison, Wisconsin, or came over, I guess you're from the east and the west, and stayed, what was it, about a day and a half we had?
Yeah, we were lucky to spend a day and a half with Ben. If you ever get a chance,
Hey, we got you lots of spotted cow.
Yeah. Pizza. You guys definitely own the market on pizza.
Yeah. So we had about a day to work on it last June, so we did some initial tests. And the major thing that we found wrong was that there were a lot of damaged electrolytic capacitors in it. Possibly because it was in an attic for 3 years. So the thing that we didn't quite do properly last June when I first saw it was, it's like termites in your house. If you see one termite, there's 10,000 termites in your house. If you have one leaking capacitor, you have 20 leaking capacitors. So last June we only fixed the visibly leaking ones.
Yeah, you removed 3 of them.
And then you want to talk about then when we met at Portland? We talked to Portland.
Well, you're the one that did the video. You took
I'm trying to include you in the story. Okay. All right, so we were like, okay, we got it to boot up properly. I made them a new power supply, and it would eject the disk, but it wouldn't load the disk. Yeah. So we thought, it could be the disk drive was, broken or dead. Like sometimes the lasers can fail over the years. It's a KSS 360, which is a fairly standard Sony model CD-ROM drive. So what I started doing last fall or late summer 2016 was I started collecting vintage early 90s Sony drives. I actually found like this really high-end, it probably was like $500 boombox from Japan, and it had like a boombox with a slide-out tray, which is actually pretty rare. So I got one of those. It had the mechanism. I found a few new old stock ones. So we have like at least 2 or 3 extra drives now for this, should that fail. So then we met up in the Portland Retro Gaming Expo last October. Right. And we did some more work on it then. I believe we got the CD player to start running. It would play discs, but you couldn't hear the audio. So then we're like, okay, maybe it's a digital audio converter, the DAC. We weren't quite sure. We had even less time at that event, like 6 hours? Yeah. And then we did a talk, but we had to compete. No, our talk we had a really good crowd for our talk, right? Yeah. Then when I did my talk for pinball, I had to compete with the line for the Angry Video Game Nerd. So I didn't have as good of a turnout. It was pretty good though. But I can't compete with that guy's line, the line of people. Yeah, not dialogue. Okay, so we had a little more progress there. So then we're like, okay, Midwest Gaming Classic is coming up, in the spring. And since that's where it all began, we're like, maybe this is where it could all end, so to speak. So you stopped by in Chicago and you dropped the unit off to our producer, and she drove it up. So we had this for about a month in my shop. And I really wanted to make it into a portable, but I had to hold back my desires. Yeah. I emailed Terry. I did an April Fool's joke, but I emailed Terry first. I'm like, okay, just so you know, I did an April Fool's joke so you don't freak out. And I photoshopped it. I was like cutting the board in half on my bandsaw. And I spent like an hour on that Photoshop. So yeah, because I was like, hey Max, want to do an April Fool's joke? And we make it look like we're tearing this thing apart. He's like, oh yeah. So we set up the camera, and I had to remove the bandsaw blade from my bandsaw. It actually, that's the thing. You have to make it believable, not just the fact that you're ruining it, but it's almost plausible that I would be dumb enough to do that. That's what makes it a good joke, right? Yeah. Okay, so we had it for about a month, which is good because then we actually had a little bit more time to kind of dive into it rather than like a whirlwind tour of a day or a few hours. And I'm like, okay, I've got the time. I'm going to go in. I'm going to find all. Basically, I'm going to replace all the capacitors. So we swapped out all but 2 of the electrolytic capacitors. What we found out, as I mentioned, the termite thing earlier, we saw some visibly leaking capacitors, but it turns out there were more that were leaking, just not as severely, but it was still enough to cause problems. So I'm like, okay, I have the time. I'm going to order all new caps and then replace them one by one in the service mount. There were a few bodges. Bodges are when your circuit board design has a mistake and then you manually wire in some things. There's actually, like the Sega Genesis had bodges in the released version of it. It's actually pretty common. If it's cheaper to hire someone to attach a wire than to redo the board, you hire someone to attach a wire. Yeah, so we just made sure that was all correct. We put on the oscilloscope to make sure everything was working. We found some weird glitches, whereas the it would play a CD. You'd see the numbers in the window. You know, for those of you who remember CD players, it would be like 12 tracks and total length of the disc. And then you could push a button and it would be like it plays a song, but you didn't hear anything. So we put it on the scope and realized the data wasn't getting over to the DAC correctly. So anyway, we kept replacing capacitors, greasing things, redoing the connectors. I didn't do anything magical. Anyone could have done this, but I was just lucky enough that they let me do it, and I was brave enough to hack something that's incredibly rare. Because, I guess I'm brave or something. Yeah. Well, as long as, I know how to not destroy things as well as I know how to destroy them, right? Right, so anyway, about a week ago, it was like, Eureka! We had a music CD in it, right? So I guess, the screen's on, right? Okay. Yeah, so I made a mix. I'm like, okay.
Yes, it's 90s music, guys.
I had so much fun doing this. I'm like, I was in high school in 1992.
When's the last time you made a CD?
The last time I made a CD mix, it's probably been at least 10 years.
It's probably this one.
So if you have the cartridge in, it should say music disc. Is it? Okay. Yeah. So this, you can just play music discs with it. So let's see what we got here. I'm probably gonna get a copyright flag. Michael Jackson. Skating Ricky Hard. I don't know what this one is. Amy Grant. Made a nice 90s mix. Because what you can do you have a Nintendo cartridge? Super Famicom cartridge?
Yeah.
Okay, just pop it off here for a second. This has a really amazingly over-engineered eject system. You know how the American Nintendo had that eject lever that you never used? Well, this one not only has that, but the power button has a lever system in it, and it actually sticks into the slot here and prevents the cartridge from being removed whilst the power button is physically in place. So this is kind of a weird feature. Like when you turn it on with a cartridge, you just get the game, right? And then when you run a music CD, it actually switches the audio completely over to the CD portion. I don't know why, which is kind of lame because, yeah, but the thing is you can't hear the sound effects from the game. So it would have been cool if it would have allowed you to play just the sound effects from the game and the music from the CD, some kind of mix like that, but you basically get one or the other. Remember this song? How do you talk to an angel? On a TV show. Yeah. Okay, so that's the CD working. So I was like, Eureka! The CD works. I can hear music. And I was like, I wasn't even sure exactly at which point it started working. It was like first thing in the morning one day, and I came into work and it was working basically. Like the next time I tested it, it worked. And I thought, like, what's that fairy tale? Was it Rumpelstiltskin where the thing comes in and builds a spindle?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Is it Rumpelstiltskin or whatever? So I thought like some gremlins came in and fixed it for me magically. Yeah. So at that point, I started working with the disc-based games. Now there's a guy named, he's called No Cash online. And once you guys dumped the load cartridge, they started writing emulators for the system, even though they had never even seen it. And they were really close, right? Because they reverse engineered they disassembled the program on here, which is pretty hardcore. So I was talking to the emulator programmer and then also the guy who wrote Super Boss Gaiden. And there was a few things that they didn't quite take into account. But now that there's real working hardware, they can work with you and dial in the actual programming. Yeah, so the first thing, is this off right now? No, it's on, okay. All right, so let me just show you how this part works. So this cartridge came with the system. It's not really anything super special. I think you guys should actually make a copy of this, like physically duplicate this, because this one's a little sketchy. It has two 128K SRAM chips in it, and they're basically the same RAM chips that are used in the regular Super Nintendo. Then there's a boot ROM, which gives you the PlayStation logo screen, and then there's an 8K SRAM with battery backup, which would have been used to save your game progress, kind of like with the Sega CD. Am I not putting that in there right? What's wrong? I needed to push hard. I guess I'm too much of a wimp. Yeah, so what this does, this cartridge basically sends the commands over the expansion bus to the Sega, to the CD-ROM portion. So not only was this intended to be a console, but it was also intended to be a CD add-on for the Super Nintendo. There's a little port on the bottom of the Super Nintendo. So they would have sold you a CD that goes under that. So this talks to the CD subsystem the same way that it would over the expansion port, which means it's limited to an 8-bit bus. But of course, the whole Super Nintendo is limited to an 8-bit bus. So there would have been some limitations with this. 256K of storage, of loading storage, is actually about a third of what the Sega CD had. And this also has an 8-bit bus, so this thing probably would have performed worse than the Sega CD. It has a better palette and better graphics capabilities, but it would have been limited in other ways. So yeah, let's try this disc. So we boot the ROM. If this one's flaky. Is it? Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, so before it wasn't talking to the subsystem, but obviously now it can. So we're going to eject the disc with my awesome Mega Mix. And now what Billy Ray Cyrus has, like Hannah Montana is his daughter, right? Okay, so this was the first one we got to work. This is a little puzzle game that was made by the emulator programmer. And the first time I tried it, it actually sort of loaded, but it had some glitches. So what they didn't know when they were programming the emulator, there's some IRQs, interrupt requests, generated by the CD-ROM add-on that were interrupting the operation of the Super Nintendo. So once we actually were able to run it on real hardware, I could send them videos and clues so they could change their code to make it work. So yeah, there we go. There's a game loaded off CD-ROM.
Don't even know how the hell to play it.
Yeah.
It's really crazy.
So this one was a good test because this game fits within 32K. There's a 32K RAM buffer on the CD-ROM circuitry, which means this basically can load in one CD function call. So it's not having to do multiple loads. Super Boss Gaiden is 512K, which means you would basically have to do 2 complete loads onto this cartridge. So you're talking like 16 calls, and then once you need the second half of the game, you'd have to dump the RAM and do 16 more calls. So what the programmers had to do in this case, the emulator programmers, Martin and Matt, is they have to create a little bootloader code in assembly that says, oh, I've got a CD-ROM system, okay, give me data, put it here, give me data, put it here. And there's a lot to that because you're basically taking the data off of the CD, putting it into the buffer, then you're DMAing the buffer over the 8-bit transceiver line into the cartridge, and it's moving around a lot of data. And those of you who are familiar with the Super Nintendo versus the Sega Genesis, the Super Nintendo is really slow compared to the Genesis. So if you think about the load times on the Sega CD, which were, this would have been even more. So remember, we don't know exactly why this wasn't made, but it might not have just been corporate politics. This system may have been demoed to Nintendo, and they would have been like, this is way too slow. We really don't know. They could have said, get out of here. Because they did go from Sony to Philips with their manufacturing.
I've never seen this happen before.
Is it in black and white?
No, not only that.
Oh yeah, the menu isn't quite right on this yet, but they're still working on it. What happened to the color? Did I just go completely colorblind in the last 5 minutes?
No, that's the color.
Yeah, I thought it was like brown. Yeah, it's probably something with the TV. Okay, let's see. We're doing okay on time, right? Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, so do you want to try this new disc? Just this morning, one of the programmers sent me another version of Super Boss Gaiden to try. Let's see if this one works. So at first we thought the game's not loading was actually hit start. Actually, no, here, let's go down to load super disk. I can just do it. Yeah, this will actually vector back to the ROM. Oh, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Okay. All right, now, yeah, let's see if this loads. It's either going to work, but he did put in a screen, so it should tell us the way in which it's failing. So now what can happen is you guys can work with the emulator programmers, and they can just send you images, and you can burn them, and you don't need me anymore. Goodbye. Hey, you know what? An error is better than a black screen.
Probably the same one you had.
Oh, actually, yeah, there's debug data here. Okay, yeah, 0 successful loads. So the way that this game is loading data is not working as well as the way Magic Flora is. But now that we have it working, one thing I discovered, I had to kind of fly blind. I didn't have a Sony CD, a test CD. They make pattern CDs that you can put into the player and then probe certain settings with your potentiometer, look for certain waveforms. I have did I say potentiometer? With your scope. So I have a scope, but I didn't have the test disc, so I actually had to fly blind. But I did notice that once I got it working, tweaking, there's more error correction with the data loading than there is with the CD. So if you start tweaking things, if you start tweaking the tracking gain and the focus gain and the tracking adjustment, the CD portion, audio portion, will stop working long before the data portion did. So what that tells us is that any problems we have now are all with software. So from a hardware perspective, it seems to be working properly. Now it's just about reverse engineering everything so we can get all the games to load properly and basically do homebrew to its fullest potential. Yeah, that's about all I have to say. Technical specifications. It's a Super Nintendo with a CD-ROM on it. Unlike the Sega CD. Well, the Sega CD add-on, we kind of joke about it, but that thing had an additional Motorola 68K processor in it, had an additional sound processor, had an additional graphics processor, and it also had, as I mentioned off the top of my head, I think it was about 700K of RAM, something like that. So it was actually adding functionality to the system. Now, granted, the Super Nintendo at stock is more powerful than a Sega Genesis. It's slower than a Sega Genesis, but everything else about it is more powerful. It has better graphics, better sound, etc. However, the Super Nintendo itself, you guys are familiar with the Nintendo games and how they had mapper chips and special chips they put into them over the years. The Super Nintendo, since it was a bit slow, they started putting support chips on the cartridges with launch games. Like Pilotwings has a digital signal processor on the chip. On the cartridge. So with this, you wouldn't have the additional circuitry that allowed Pilotwings or Mario Kart or Star Fox to run. So it's like you only have the base system. So any of those additional circuits wouldn't have been available, which would have also been limiting to programmers. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. If you guys want to talk anymore, and then I guess we can just take questions.
Yeah, originally when we hooked up with Ben at Portland, he replaced the CD drive with one he had gotten out of a boombox. But since he got it back about a month ago, he put the original CD drive back in it. So everything in here is original now still. But the only thing new is all new capacitors. So that's the only change.
Well, I also wrote my name. I wrote my name in it though.
You have to know Ben. He ain't kidding. Anybody got any questions? Wow, this is going to be way too easy. Go ahead.
I think I heard somewhere that the original Super Nintendo was like underclocked so that it didn't overheat or something in stock. Is that true?
I could not speak to that. One thing, it did have, it ran its RAM at a slower rate than the CPU was even capable of. It had a lot of weird limitations. There may be some old school Super Nintendo programmers somewhere at this convention that could probably tell you that answer. But something to think about, like, nowadays we have like 5-stage pipeline CPUs, but we didn't back with the Super Nintendo. So they say like 3.58 megahertz. The thing is, if you're running 4 clocks per instruction, so basically whatever you have for your, it's not 3.58 MIPS, millions of instructions per second, it's actually 3.58 divided by 4. So the Super Nintendo was running at less than 1 million instructions per second, even in assembly. That's one of the reasons why, well, for third party for Nintendo, it started to be a little sticky even with the Super Nintendo, because the Genesis was so much faster. You could actually write in C high-level programs, whereas the Super Nintendo, you had to use assembly, otherwise you wouldn't even have a chance of getting decent speed. So yeah, there were some weird limitations in it, but the graphics and sound of the Super Nintendo were great.
Anybody else?
Thank you. Is it working? Okay. Where was it that you worked that went bankrupt that led to you discovering this? Sorry if you said it, I missed it.
Yeah, Advana Bank Corporation. Back in the day when there was like a couple hundred going out of business every time you turned around. And Olaf Olsson, he went from being the president of Sony at some point in time, ended up being a board member at the company I was at throughout the years. So, and he had an office up in New York, and this was actually sitting on his desk in his office. I tried to Google it to find pictures, but I couldn't. But one of the guys, if I remember right, his name was Brian. He remembers seeing it on Olaf's desk, which meant it wasn't plugged in. It was just had the controller, which is the one and only controller on the planet, to PlayStation on the front, Nintendo on the back, sitting on his desk. Lose power?
Yeah, I don't know. No, I guess it died.
Yeah, well, Ben, fix the damn thing. Anybody else?
In front of everybody? Right here.
Go ahead, Jason.
I would like to know how your life has changed since you found the Nintendo PlayStation.
Well, the only change is that I get to come out and have fun at the expos with all you neat people. Other than that, I'm still freaking out, working and broke, you know what I mean? And my son will even contest to that. He's, you know, our lifestyle hasn't changed whatsoever. When we first got this, we had a lady from New York. She contacted me like half a dozen times. From Rags to Riches, it was called. She wanted to know, how does it feel to be rich? And I'm like, lady, you have no idea. I'm still out of work and I'm still freaking broke. So where do you think I'm getting money from? We're not making any money on this. It's just from the kindness of the people who run the expos who want to share what we own with you people to agree to our terms. So, you know, they pretty much pay for everything for us to come here. So, you know, you can thank Dan and Gary for that.
2 questions. How well insured is this system, and what were the significance of the games in the case next to it when you were displaying it?
I didn't hear what you
Did you
said.
say how well insured?
It's not insured at all. And those games that were in the case were just games that people gave to us at different conventions. Yeah, we just, like, if somebody gives us a card or something to play, you know, we just have them sign it for us. And, you know, we got a couple from different podcasts and stuff. We just put it there, kind of help promote them and stuff like that.
Yeah, we just got one this morning from Hair of the Dog. They're out in the tent.
We did a podcast with Hair of the Dog out in the tent this morning. They actually gave us a card. We made them sign it. It'll go with us everywhere. People can play it. And that's what we do.
I do have a comment on that. So I had this for about a month, and all I could think about is like, that thing's in my shop. And I was like, right? And then on Friday, I'm like, I take the bag and I'm like, put it in my car. Then I'm like, Then on Friday, I'm like, Terry, where are you? Terry, where? Like this Friday, I'm like, Terry, where are you? And I was so happy. I'm like, okay, chain of custody.
Yeah, he was walking real lightly when he's carrying it into the bar here, and we were sitting not happy.
I feel bad carrying my oscilloscope, let alone this.
Yeah, when we were over in Hong Kong, our buddy Dixon looked into having it insured while we were over there. Even just for $1 million, they went at $700 a month. I mean, who the hell can afford that? You know what I mean?
Well, if you think about it, like you have like stadium events for the Nintendo, usually goes for like what, $25,000, $30,000, and that's what there's probably like 15 of those in existence. So, I mean, I don't know about $1 million, but I mean, right? I think, you know, if you do go to sell it, you'd probably easily get $100,000 for it. No problem.
Yeah, we were offered 200,000 American dollars while we were over in Hong Kong back in 2015.
It's just plastic.
Yeah. How dare you say that? Yeah, he says that now after you worked on it.
I can put the money in the bank, and it's super safe, right?
I'd still be broke.
Or you can put the money.
So I was interested, have Nintendo or Sony reached out to you?
Nintendo, never. I'm friends with Shuhei Yoshida on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And actually, April 22nd of last year, I shot Shuhei a tweet, and I asked him if he could tell me anything about the unit whatsoever. And he was real vague. All he said to me was, "You are blessed."
Well, I mean, the Super Nintendo had Sony chips in it, and their Apple computers with Microsoft chips in it. You know, they were pretty chummy, but obviously there was a huge quote-unquote breakup at that point, and then Sony became quite the competitor. I mean, everyone's nostalgic for the N64 right now, but you know, it's easy to forget that the PlayStation cleaned its clock 4-1 in sales. So I don't think they're as friendly anymore. So they probably don't even want to acknowledge it for basically probably legal purposes, because it's kind of like a, you know, or it's like having a photo of your ex-wife still at your house someplace.
I don't think so, Ben.
Have you got any prototypes or been contacted by anybody with some of the games they were working on?
Prototypes?
Yeah, like Secret of Mana was going to be a SNES CD game.
Apparently somebody's got that disc somewhere. Please send it. Yeah.
Did you say you bought a Bomberman disc or something?
Nah. He got his ass kicked over in Hong Kong on Bomberman. No, I didn't. I let people play it. You know, that's why we bring it here. So when, you know, we hook it up, we let people play it. I can play it anytime. Sorry. Anybody else?
Way over there. Give me a second.
Run. Need more coffee.
Fun so far? Yeah. All right.
Yeah, actually, Midwest Gaming Classic was the first expo we were at last year, so it's cool to be back.
Yeah, last year you guys gave me the honor to actually hold it, and it was pretty heavy. And I was just wondering if you guys ever waited.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the second question.
It's about 6 pounds.
Okay. Maybe I was just that nervous. But anyways, the second question is, do you guys think that maybe early prototypes of the CDI could potentially also be very similar in hardware?
After Nintendo parted ways or went separate ways, like the song with Sony, they went to Philips and developed the CDI. They took an entirely different approach. Now, we laugh about the CDI, you know, like those cheesy Zelda games, but from a hardware standpoint, it would have been significantly more advanced than this. Which also, I should mention, a lot of people think this could run a PlayStation 1 game. PlayStation 1 is also significantly more advanced than this.
Sure.
Right. So it probably wouldn't be that much, it'd probably be quite different. Because remember, the CDI almost looked more like an appliance or like a rack mount component.
What's interesting is that Super Mario Wacky Worlds, I don't know if you ever heard of it, but I mean,
it's a prototype, right?
Yeah, it's a prototype, and you can actually burn it and play it on CDIs, because it plays burned games, of course. And it's actually very similar to it's almost identical to Super Mario World. It's actually supposed to be the true successor to the game initially. So, and then...
Yeah, I've probably ran into a handful of people who've actually worked on this project back in the day. They said they're pretty sure there's still stuff in the closet somewhere, you know. They worked on it as third party, you know, they'd send me the stuff, but it's been over a year and I've never gotten anything. But if people out there have the stuff and they want to send it to me, I won't even tell them their name. Trust me, I've already gotten emails and stuff from other people that I'll never use their name.
Well, they're still finding Atari 2600 prototypes 35 years later, so I wouldn't rule it out. Some stuff will come up. Especially now that people know. Well,
yeah. So I'm hoping any of the developers out there that were actually making games for it would at least burn me a disc and send me a copy. You know what I mean? That'd be cool.
Yeah, I just have.
Or they can keep the copy and send me the original. That'd even be better. Not that I'm greedy now, but it belongs with the unit. That's what I keep saying. Remember now, it belongs with the unit.
You do realize it's going to be a burned disc.
Oh yeah, of course. Here's the disc. Yeah, that's brand new. No scratches, liar. Anybody else? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually just had one quick last one. You said it came with like thousands of CDs, and I was just wondering if you ended up getting a chance to go through those, because possibly it actually. I mean, if you guys ever see like one that looks like a CDR, like a Sony CDR with writing on it, it could potentially be a prototype.
They were all just music CDs, a bunch of hair bands and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. No burnt discs or anything.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
And if anybody else has the question, can I hold it? Eric, what's the answer to that?
Yes.
There you go. You have to ask those guys too, though. Any other questions?
Cool. Well, thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming. And actually, we're going to unplug it. You want to take pictures? We're not being tossed out of here right now. Come up, hold it, take a picture.
Yep, if you want to take pictures, feel free.
Gary Butterfield and Kole Ross from Watch Out for Fireballs joined us to play the oddly sedate Pilotwings for the Super Nintendo and discuss just what that game was about and why it seems to be an overlooked gem in Nintendo's lineup in this live podcast.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
And we are Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast. What we do is every episode, we take a game and we kind of talk about it back to front, the history, kind of its place, and we go through it kind of bit by bit. So it's kind of part let's play, part critique.
Yeah, and we've been going for just under 6 years now. We have over 150 episodes. And this time we are here at the Midwest Gaming Classic to talk about Pilotwings.
And Gamer
entire series. Yes.
I keep trying to throw away this energy drink, but it keeps appearing in my hotel room. This is Gamer G Purple Nurple. It's the ultimate gamer's drink. It's very ultimate, and there's stats on the back. So this is going to be health points of 8, great taste of 10, stamina 9, mental focus 9, sustainable energy 10.
Yes, and mine, even though it is a different color, has the exact same stats.
What's yours called, Kole?
Mine is called Binary Blue, so it is less disgusting, I think.
And because we do stunt things and our health isn't important, we're going to try this on stage.
Yes, here we go.
As insured men.
Yup.
I can't actually open mine.
Oh, no, I had some trouble. Oh boy, I'm 2-micing it now. Let's see here, okay.
Once my performance is up, I can open any cap.
That is not a drink for casual gamers.
Yeah.
I would not recommend.
That's something you add water to make Gatorade. It is. It's thick. For this,
that's written on the side of the bottle, actually.
It's thickness 8. So this episode, as we mentioned, we're talking about Pilotwings. We're talking about the entire series here. Pilotwings is a simulation game developed by Nintendo EAD and published by Nintendo for the Super Nintendo in 1991.
Yes, and even though we are primarily focused on the SNES version at our booth, where we have been having people play and compete for a quadcopter drone, we actually want to talk about the entire series because, on the whole, each game by itself is quite slight, right? Normally we take a very narrative approach, but here we want to kind of look at the arc of this series because its purpose in Nintendo's lineup has actually changed in the decades since the first release.
Yeah, any individual Pilotwings is not that interesting. If you look at the series and look at it as an arc and how the values have changed, it actually gets kind of cool. And Pilotwings is also a Nintendo first-party, line, like series, and you don't see a lot of love for it. It's like, like a better Ice Climbers. We could have done this on Ice Climbers, but this is as far as I'll go. It's Ice Climbers is extremely bad. Sorry, the Ice Climbers fans,
yeah.
But this is, this was never the game that got the glory. It's kind of a workhorse thing. Like when there was only one set of tire treads, Pilotwings was taxiing you around the runway. Like it was there for you, even when you weren't there for it.
Yep. And it doesn't get a lot of glory because it kind of comes out, historically, toward the beginning of a Nintendo console to show off some of its features, some of the technical kind of accomplishments that Nintendo had made. And then gradually other stuff starts doing that, like doing those tricks that they do. But this is primarily like a tech demo for graphical technology. And yeah, they just want to show stuff off.
And it's a series that has always had this kind of very chill, non-confrontational edge to it, despite being very, very difficult initially. And what's kind of cool when you look at all of them is how they lean into that. They've always had this kind of 50s, like, ring-a-ding-ding, baby, hang out at the Flight Club. Here's some really relaxing soft jazz kind of thing. And the gameplay doesn't match that, and eventually does, when it becomes a peaceful photography simulator for your 3DS.
Yep. Yeah, it is more Pan Am than Virgin.
AM is I think what you're looking for.
Yeah, what's that?
AM.
AM?
Yeah.
What?
VH1.
No. Oh.
Yeah.
Jeez, okay. Sorry, that went right over my head.
No, it wasn't very good. So the SNES version is the one we're playing at our booth. And it's probably the one I feel like most people are familiar with, at least because it was a launch title in America, so a lot of people are familiar with it, at least kind of visually.
Yeah. They're familiar with it. A lot of people have been walking by the booth and saying, hey, it's Pilotwings. Which was kind of surprising to me because I didn't actually have a lot of experience personally with this one. By the time I got Super Nintendo, this was kind of out. It wasn't really in stores that much. Never rented it, and it was out of magazines. So it's kind of cool to see that it goes this far back and there's that much goodwill towards it.
Yeah, people dig it. despite being ridiculously hard. I feel like that's the main thing you're going to notice in Pilotwings for the Super Nintendo. It's very demanding. It's got this iterative game loop where you are meant to do kind of short cycles, slowly perfect things, and have that feeling of being rewarded afterwards, after kind of mastering something that is very tricky, in varying degrees as well. Because in any individual title, there's at least a modicum of variety in your tasks.
Yeah. So a little bit of history here. Pilotwings was not always called Pilotwings, and in fact, it wasn't always about planes. Initially, this was shown as far back as 1988, when Nintendo was showing off the Super Famicom, and it was called Dragonfly, and it was actually a 3D flight combat simulator.
Yeah, the original purpose for this was always to kind of show off the Mode 7 graphics. For those unfamiliar, that's the SNES's ability to rotate and scale sprite-based graphics and create the illusion of 3D visuals and gameplay. If you haven't played Pilotwings, it's when you get the blimp in Final Fantasy III.
Yeah, or I think, Mario Kart, or Super Mario Kart. F-Zero, any of those games where they kind of hack together a 3D style of play without obviously using like an FX chip, like with
Star Fox.
Yeah, Star Fox. There we go. I was almost going to say Yoshi's Island, but that's different. but yeah. So they took this. They decided to simplify it and actually reduce it down, take away the combat, and then turn it into a flight simulator game. And that's when it became about flying planes and riding hang gliders.
Yeah, no more fantastical elements remain except for in the bonus games,
right?
Where there's kind of peaks of that. The final version of the game was developed over the course of 15 months, along with Super Mario World and F-Zero.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of kind of productivity for a short time.
Think about that. Like they would do something kind of similar, but they would fail. Like the next one with the Nintendo 64, right? Like they would get Pilotwings and Mario 64 out the door, but then no, there was no Zelda like they intended to. Like this just was a tremendous period of productivity for them.
One of the big reasons why I think a lot of people have affection for the series, and I definitely do, is because of the music. It was composed by Soyo Aka, who also did the music for Mario Kart and SimCity for the SNES. And Koji Kondo was in a supervisory role, did the music for the helicopter attack stage. There is a helicopter attack stage. But for the most part, it's got this very light jazz. Again, it makes me think of like a 50s flight lounge kind of thing. Like, how flying is actually a bewildering nightmare for all involved. I've never seen you get those stories about like pushing tin. I don't know if that's a movie or just like a documentary or whatever that is.
That's a movie.
Yeah,
that documentary where Billy Bob Thornton became a flight controller. Yeah. Okay.
Well, he's had a lot of careers, musician, actor.
He's triple threat.
Yeah, he's what's called a hat trick. But being on a plane is not fun, and it's very, very harrowing and stuff. And this is just very much not that. It's kind in tone. Yeah. And the music goes a long way for that.
Yeah, and this music definitely does sound like Mario Kart and like SimCity. If you listen to it, they feel almost interchangeable. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is good. Soyo Aka does fantastic work. There's a good interview with her. I forget what site did it, but you get a sense of kind of her process and how she worked. Like she always paired up with somebody who would do the sound programming, and she primarily just did the composition.
Yeah, and eventually when this goes up on our website, we'll have that in the show notes.
Yes.
After that.
Yeah, so the scenario for the game is pretty basic. We haven't really described it in a lot of detail. You're a pilot who is going through these trials at flight school, and you're under the tutelage of a few instructors as you're going along.
And if you just play the game, you'd be forgiven for not thinking there's a lot to these instructors, but you should read the manual, because the manual for Pilotwings is great. One, it is really technical. Like, it has technical drawings of drag, like the coefficients of drag.
Yeah.
Like, it's really, really neat.
Yeah.
And then you get the bios for these four weirdos that are all kind of great.
Yeah, so you get Tony. He's a gentle boy. He likes to take it easy on novices. He doesn't. He believes in building people up, not tearing them down.
When you fail, he says you can do better.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shirley. Now, Shirley's a little bit tougher. The only real thing in the manual is that she flirts with the male students. Yes. So we know that. But other than that, she's a little bit of a mystery, but not as much of a mystery as...
Not as much of a mystery as Lance, who I think is the mole. Actually, I think Lance sold all of them out.
The Evil Syndicate?
Yes, to the Evil Syndicate. Yes, This is in this game. If you've only played the N64 one, yes, there is something called the Evil Syndicate that kidnaps everybody. But no, he speaks 6 different languages fluently, and he's a former Air Force pilot, but nobody knows for sure.
Yeah, except perhaps Big Al, who is like the the stepdad of the sky. Like he's a real angry uncle who gets mad at you for wrecking planes. And in the manual it says, he looks tough, but some claim to have seen his tears. Like he's a dragon that appears once a year, and if you make love under the dragon's moon, you will have like a baby with special powers or something. It's really amazing.
You will give birth to the next king.
Yeah. But he looks like Cake Boss's like dad. Like it doesn't look like something that would have that kind of gravitas.
He's got some real dramatic eyebrows, Big Al does.
I think they're painted on. Like it really looks like that because they're permanently arched.
Yes, they are. Yeah, they're sticking out from behind his massive aviators, which makes sense.
Let's talk about the events.
Yeah, let's talk about the events because they're pretty diverse and they're actually very greatly in difficulty as you go on. So this is a game that is all about the joy of flying, which I've never felt, but apparently exists in media of sorts. And I think my favorite event in this is actually the light plane. Taking this plane, taking off from the ground, flying through loops, and then landing safely again in what can only be described as Top Gun for NES, but functional.
Yes, yeah, that's the thing. Is like landing is fun. So if anyone has played Top Gun for NES, like that sounds hard to believe, but it's fun to pull off a really good landing. In Pilotwings. These you have to worry about your fuel, which kind of limits how much ranging you can do for specifically when you have to make multiple passes. But other than you have to worry about your altitude and speed. If you go too slow, you'll actually drop out of the sky, and just your angle of approach and such. It's all pretty basic. It's probably the most pure of these things.
And the interface for this game I think is really useful, even though it is kind of overwhelming at first because the screen is just festooned with these meters, but all of them have a purpose. They're not just decorative. You have something that'll show your altitude, your speed, your kind of orientation as you're going, because it's not apparent. You're looking at these very low res, kind of like low pixel count graphics. You might not be able to tell that you're coming in crooked until it's way too late. So you have to kind of keep your eye on all of this at the same time.
A bear for a lot of people is skydiving. Skydiving is really tricky, but again, I like how it's presented quite a bit. You have this roller coaster-like moment of anticipation as you're pulled up on a ladder to eventually get let go, and the music kind of builds, and you have to dive through rings on your way down. And it's very tricky. You're just a body. You don't have very much control over things. You're just using the natural aerodynamics, and then have to hit a target, kind of varying difficulties. This is really tricky. This is where you, if you do this poorly, and you land head first on the ground and your legs kick up like a beach turtle. Kind of thing.
Or if you just don't deploy your chute and you sink into the ground into a man-shaped hole, like your Peggy Hill. That one episode of King of the Hill. Yeah, somebody laughed. He knows. Cool.
I think you're thinking of King of the Hill 64. Actually,
yes,
I think that happens in the sequel. Rocket Belt, which I think is a lot of people's favorite because it is by far the most empowering. This feels like a video game. And it's because rocket belts aren't a thing. It is the non-realistic thing of this, where you have two kinds of bits of thrust, and you just control yourself around. You can either go hard or slow, and have to kind of go through rings or lines or moving rings before hitting a target. And this is by far the easiest, I think.
The biggest constraint on this is actually time, because you're incredibly mobile. You can change direction on a dime. However, you're going to have to cover a lot of the map in what will feel like kind of counterintuitive loops to hit all of these rings. So you have to kind of balance that out, while also making sure that you come in for the right kind of landing. Because if you just come in too fast, you're going to break your legs. You have to feather the throttle as you go down.
And then finally, as far as the normal levels, there is hang gliding. This is a lot like the light plane with no control over your vertical ascent.
No control over anything.
Yeah, you have to look for these kind of airstream things. And I find finding the updrafts to gain height not so much the problem as landing. Landing accurately on this feels a lot like landing the parachute to me, but with more forward momentum and less downward momentum. So this is very tricky. I think.
You have to. You can screw yourself well before you actually realize you've screwed yourself by approaching from the wrong angle, by just overshooting and coming down too fast. Like you have the ability to what is it called, flaring?
Yes.
Yeah, where you will kind of slow down horizontally but speed up your descent. So you're like, whoa, I'm gonna miss my, and then you sink like a stone, and then you're done. Like they rate you based on how graceful your landing was, how
accurate.
Yeah, how accurate it was. And I've got to say, Big Al is a harsh master.
Oh yeah. He actually cares about how much equipment you're wasting.
Yeah.
After you've done these 4, the evil syndicate comes and kidnaps your instructors. They haven't been introduced before. If it seems like you didn't miss like Pilotwings Origins, or anything like that. Like that was not explained. So you have to go rescue them in a helicopter that you haven't really done anything with, that has weapons and there are ground cannons and such. It feels very much like a holdover from an earlier draft of the game that was more focused on this kind of combat.
Yeah.
This controls like an overhead helicopter. It's not that different than like Desert Strike or something like that. And the biggest thing is you die in one hit from these ground guns.
Yep.
And you're not. They can come from off screen or they can be hidden as well in kind of wooded areas. So it is kind of hateful and hard.
Yeah, definitely had to use save states to get through that because they would just come out of nowhere. And get me. But like, it feels cool to land the chopper and see the little dudes run out and get into it. Like,
That's Lance.
What?
I said no. Lance gets in the chopper.
Oh, Lance.
No.
Wait a minute, Lance
is doing a song downstairs.
Money.
Some say.
Yeah. But yeah, it's cool. You're going to see more stuff with like helicopters like in the next couple games. But like this feels like a bonus round in a way that they already have, but more dramatic.
And then the game shuns into New Game Plus where you do advanced conditions, so wind and weather become a factor, and everything gets really pretty. It's at night, so like things look really cool, this kind of airfield lit up at night. But everything is just harder. Dealing with wind is specifically very tricky with the hang glider. That makes that super tough, even though it does allow you another way to climb. If you flare into the wind, you'll go up, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And but it just gets harder. I've never actually beat the second half. When I was young, I was like, I rescued everybody, and now I quit. I'm only going to be the best pilot, not like the dictionary definition of pilot. I quit.
Right. Yeah. Landing on snowy runways. Yeah. No good.
Super hard.
Yeah.
So that's really the first one, and kind of set the stage. Like I said, that's what's kind of interesting about this is the elements that they will emphasize later are still here.
Yes.
So when I was young, I had this game. It was one of the early Super Nintendo games. One of the things I would do is get on the rocket belt and just kind of check out the airfield, and it was just a sprite map. Like it's flat. There's nothing there, but it was fun to kind of explore and imagine what these places were. And then later entries, they're like, people want to actually be able to explore these worlds. Let's make that doable.
Yeah. Yeah, because video games can empower you to move in ways that you really cannot in real life. And they can put whatever they want into them, and that they're going to lean into that with some of the environments in the next 2 games. Something we didn't talk about were the bonus rounds. If you land on the moving platforms, such as the swan diving penguin.
Yeah,
that one's always pretty
real
good.
Cutie, and then the weird guy with wings, like the Terry Gilliam nightmare creature who either bounces from point section to point section or kind of does a distance run for bonus points. Landing on the bonus platform gets you maximum points for that round, so that is the speedrun strategy. If you watch speedruns of this, it's really interesting because they just do the first event that's easiest to get the bonus round down. They have that down to a science, and then they just get only as many bonus points as they need, and then quit and go right to the next round. And you can do it. They get mathematically know how much you have to do. It's kind of cool to watch. It's about 20 minutes.
Yeah, and there are like step-by-step instructions too of how to like assure yourself.
Yes.
To win, because this is physics-based. It's very technical, but it's also very deterministic.
Yeah. So turn 90 degrees for this many seconds. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is definitely, like I said, I didn't have any experience with this as a kid, but playing this has, I really appreciate how demanding it is, even if it is, it gets way too hard in the second half. It's a different kind of thing than what it would ultimately be, but I'm happy they decided to do it.
Yeah, I really liked it. I played it as a kid, and it holds up in a way that is very hard, but I will iterate and do a thing, get better at it. So it's got that kind of appeal.
I think your microphone is... We might need a new microphone.
Continue on.
Yes, I will take us on to the next game with Pilotwings 64. Now, this is the one that I had the most experience with. And that could just be a difference in our age as well. This came out. It was a launch title for the N64 in 1996. Developed kind of alongside Mario 64, and it was actually co-developed by Nintendo and an American company called Paradigm Simulation. a company whose final game in the 2000s was called Juiced 2 Hot Import Nights.
They made this. So they had experience with Silicon Graphics workstations, so Nintendo traveled to the US to develop the game alongside them and kind of work with them. The music is actually really interesting with this. It's composed by a different person, this American man named Dan Hess. But he worked really hard to kind of capture the tone of the first game perfectly. And I think he did a really great job. Like, it feels of a piece. And as far as Nintendo series, kind of second run Nintendo series is part of that unified aesthetic they have.
This is another composer who interviews exist for, and he's talked about kind of at length the process of composing music for the N64 and kind of what a harrowing, antiquated ordeal that was because of the limited capacity on the carts and the fact that most of the processing, I believe, had to be done on the cartridge itself. So him working with all these professionals to just try and get something out of these systems was remarkable, especially when you look at the end product.
Yeah, this is much more chill than the Super Nintendo version. This version does not have, you have more control over every craft in it and more time to explore. The scoring is more generous in this. And this was, the way we talk about these as being kind of tech demos, Nintendo was really into showing off the capabilities of the Nintendo 64 by giving you a distinct world to fly around, kind of free roam through during your trials, and in a free, kind of free range mode that gets unlocked.
Yeah. And it's great. Like, they made a very conscious decision to steer away from a simulation aspect and make it feel more arcadey, more loose. There's definitely a lot of personality in the characters that you can pick. They veer away from the flight instructors, and they give you just these cool, big, colorful, different maps to float around.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's different characters you choose. They have kind of Mario Kart-like stats, different little bits to themselves, how they control. They're all named for birds. There's a character named Lark, who kind of looks like Nestor from the Nintendo Power magazine, if you guys are familiar with Nestor or his bowling adventures. His urban bowling adventures, I think that's what it's called. I don't remember what Nestor's urban bowling adventure is called. And then a character named Robin, who is named Hooter in Japan, but wouldn't fly in America because of boobs.
Yeah. Because of the Wings restaurant. Yeah.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, okay. What?
In that case, it's a restaurant.
But yeah, so there are three main events in this one, structured kind of similarly to the first. So you have the auto gyro, a jetpack, and a hang glider. So the auto gyro is a new one. It functions very similarly to the light plane, except it gives you a little bit more control over kind of like side-to-side movement.
Mm-hmm. And the jetpack is very similar to the rocket belt.
Yeah.
In this, I don't actually know if there's much difference at all, actually.
No, it's really similar. You have the two different kinds of jets that you can deploy. Yeah, similarly empowering. That is the one that you would most want to break away from your flight plan to go explore with.
Go rogue.
Yeah. You're gonna have to shoot him down. Yeah.
And then hang gliding, which is similar to hang gliding prior to that, but one important distinction is you have an analog stick, so it's actually a little bit easier to control. Again, kind of sticking with that theme.
Yeah. Yeah. You also have bonus events too. Like, if you are able to reach a certain score on a different challenge, then you can do crazy stuff. Like, skydiving, that's not so crazy. That was in the first game. What? But you can also be a human cannonball.
Yeah.
Kind of like in Mario 64,
Yeah.
And you can ride around in the jumble hopper, which sounds like a weird industrial item that you'd find in Australia. Oh yeah,
I think that's how
the jumble hopper.
I think that's where they store the mixed up files of Miss Franken-T Whirlin' Watson or whatever in the jungle hopper, or it's parked outside Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium.
Okay,
it's one of the two.
One of them.
I don't know which one.
Yeah.
And then Birdman mode, which is the coolest one, which is a free roam mode, which is all I really wanted to do in Pilotwings 64.
Yeah.
Where I was at in my kind of gaming career, shoot me. But like when I was in my game playing time, I wanted that more than I wanted this kind of technical test of skill.
Yeah. You can only fly through so many rings, but they really were onto something, that they had a world that that people wanted to explore, and so they leaned into it. And one of the things I really love about the 64 version is in the Wingman mode, Birdman, whatever, you are able to take pictures, and they're going to really lean into this in the Pilotwings Resort. But yeah, like going out and finding just these cool little things that they hid in the world is incredibly gratifying. And again, just this low pressure, very chill situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the one that you had more experience with growing up.
Yes.
I did not have a Nintendo 64 at the time they were relevant. I got one later, so I didn't spend a lot of time with this.
Yeah.
I just played it for the show.
Yeah. This game worked really well on a rental. I don't know that I would ever have been able to convince my parents to buy it for me, because I was 6. No, I wasn't saying. I was a dumb, stupid kid. But yeah, like it worked really well just to play in these short bursts. Yeah, I remember Nintendo Power features about this, like telling you exactly where to aim the cannonball. Like, those guides worked out really well.
There's kind of a weird footnote to this. A version of this for the GameCube that almost was, apparently. I mostly know about this through an Unseen 64 video and article about this, but apparently there was a version of this for GameCube developed by Factor 5, or was going to be developed by Factor 5.
It was in planning.
Yes, in planning. The same people who did Star Wars, Rogue Squadron, Rogue Leader, Rebel Strike, Strike Squadron, Rebel Leader, and Squadron Rogue.
Yep, Rogue Jedi Unleashed.
Yes.
Yeah, those are good games. Like Rogue Squadron, if you didn't dislike Star Wars so much, Rogue Squadron would be pretty fun to do for the show.
Too bad.
Okay, everybody cheer if you want us to.
Yeah.
It probably hasn't aged very well. Just a fun arcade flight shooter.
So it's not on trial here, Cole. We can move on.
I'm so insecure about this. No. So this rumor kind of started up, and it was based on a comment that Satoru Iwata, rest in peace, gave at the end of an E3 press event in 2002, basically saying, yes, we kind of botched the launch of the GameCube a little bit, but we have these plans, and in talking about these upcoming Star Wars games, mentioned that they're working on something else. And a couple of other kind of corroborating details really pointed to this at the time being the new Pilotwings game.
Some details came out about the planning. This was going to take place during the first couple decades of the Cold War and during the space race, and it has a kind of The Last Starfighter plot. You would be recruited out of flight school to do these military missions directly and kind of do this higher end stuff. It sounds much more serious in tone and not relaxing.
No, it sounds very intense.
Yeah.
Because like the first half of the game would have been these trials, like, all right, young cadet, you need to go and fly through these rings, and then all of a sudden you need to stop the world from blowing
If you don't,
up.
America dies.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that's kind of crazy about it is they pulled all these resources, pulled all these influences, primarily the movie The Right Stuff, which would have been strange. And after the game didn't get off the ground due to the fact that it was being developed alongside Rebel Strike, Microsoft and LucasArts said, hey, Factor 5, you're not actually like contracted with Nintendo at all. So there was allegedly a plan to take this thing and like actually make it into The Right Stuff flight game for the Xbox, which would have been bizarre.
Yes, that never happened, of course.
Right.
It would have been weird. It seemed like for a long time that Pilotwings was dead. However, a new system came out with a new kind of visual interface, the 3DS. So Pilotwings Resort came out in 2011. It was a launch title for the 3DS. And as an early 3DS adapter, as somebody who's had, Steel, what's the sub game? The 3DS sub game that nobody likes?
Oh gosh, yeah, Steel Diver. Yeah, Steel Diver. Thank you very much, Bob.
As a former Steel Diver owner, and perhaps future, I'm very familiar with Pilotwings Resort.
Yeah.
As an early adopter.
Yeah.
So
I just got it when we decided to do this.
it's a weird tip. It's $1.70 at GameStop. So like, and it's worth $1.70. Like it's pretty good. So.
Okay, so for $1.70 you could get
1.7 of these.
But yeah, this was a launch game for the 3DS in 2011, and this time Nintendo wanted to use Pilotwings to kind of demonstrate that 3D on a handheld without 3D glasses would not make you sick and die.
And it works pretty well.
Yeah.
Like, you can fly around at like hack the 3D slider and not, it's not Barf City. It's pretty cool. And the play is the logical conclusion of the series. Those things that were kind of set up by the tone and music and aesthetics of the first game are in full force here, where it is one of the chillest games I've ever played. It's like the Pokemon Snap of video games. Like you just kind of fly around. The scoring is really gentle. You take pictures. There's nothing that like you're not going to crash unless you try to.
Right. You don't have to unlock free roam mode. It's just there from the start if you want to just pick one of these devices and then just go crazy flying around. Yeah, those trials are still there and they're really fun. With the added, visual fidelity.
And added goals. Like there's like different weird things you'll do, like fly up to this lighthouse, take a picture, and then swirl around and land.
Yeah, or just
like that.
Or just like, hey, circumnavigate this island.
Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
And that actually helps a lot because in free roam mode there is an exploration incentive. This island is full of nooks and crannies and caves and such that have little globes that unlock something. But you collect collectibles like widgets. You go get them.
Yeah.
And taking the light plane, flying through a tunnel, like a river that goes under a mountain, is immensely fun and satisfying.
Yeah.
And when your wing touches the end, you don't blow up instantly like you would in the SNES version. You're more or less okay.
Yeah. This island that we're talking about, so instead of having different maps that are like, hey, here's an island that is the exact shape of the United States. This takes place on Woohoo Island. From
it's a Sims spin-off.
Yeah.
And it's
you
like
stole my joke.
It's like it's all sandals resorts. Like that's all that's on that island.
I wish you hadn't stole my joke.
I didn't know you were going for it. I'm sorry.
I know, it's fine. No, it's good. We're on the same wavelength. Don't worry. But yeah, Woohoo Island from Wii Sports Resort and from Wii Fit. And combined with the fact that you can that you only play as your Mii on your 3DS, it really feels like this weird point in Nintendo's kind of branding and character where they were trying to lean on this as something that people had a lot of goodwill towards. I think it's pleasant. I think Wii Sports Resort is really good, but this kind of existing at this intersection of all three of those things, Pilotwings, Mii's, and Woohoo Island, makes it feel like very, very much of its time at the end of the Wii era.
Yeah, like a unified 2011 kind of aesthetic.
If 2011 was a game.
Yes. So there's primarily 3 regular vehicles in this. The plane, which is very similar to the light plane, just again a little bit more master control to that. The rocket belt is back. It's no longer a jetpack. And the hang glider, again, which is just much easier to use and land than previously.
Yeah. And there are super vehicles, so instead of having weird little bonus rounds or different kind of challenges, you actually do the hardest challenges of these different tracks with kind of like turbocharged versions of the regular dudes. So like instead of having this light plane, you have a jet that moves very fast but is very hard to maneuver. You have a super rocket belt, and I don't know what the distinction is.
It's faster, better, super.
Yeah.
And then the pedal glider, which you have to pedal.
Yep.
So it's like one of those Red Bull commercials or something about the early days of aviation.
Yeah.
In video game form. This is kind of a not well thought of game. I remember getting lots of 7s. It's like a 7 out of 10 game. A lot of people were disappointed because it was a new handheld platform and it wasn't kind of a marquee experience. But like I said, I think it's worth playing, and it's really easy to get a hold of.
Yeah. Granted, it's very slight. You know. I think anything that comes out in the launch window of a platform is going to be judged on a different standard, and it can cut both ways, right? You'll have people who are giddy about a new handheld or a new system and kind of transfer that into their estimation of the game itself. And Nintendo 3DS just kind of got a bad break, and widely is regarded to have just a very, very bad launch window.
Yeah, and like famously so, and then they did the price drop, and I'm an ambassador. I should have said ambassador instead of early adopter. I didn't use the correct terminology. Nintendo lawyers will be back at the table.
Yeah, one of them means you waited in line at a particular time. The other one means you could park in front of a fire hydrant.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm the villain of Lethal Weapon 5. So I mean that's really it. And like I said, it's it's a slight series. Like, there are 3 games, but I feel like we talked about what's worth talking about in about 40 minutes. Like, it is a very slight series, but it's interesting because you don't hear about it. There's a stage in the new Smash Brothers that is in Pilotwings. There's a little bit of these kind of nods. There have been trophies in Smash Brothers, but it's not something that you feel a lot of affection or nostalgia for, or see a lot of, rather.
Yeah, most of the affection goes back to the music, honestly.
Yeah.
That pops up on lists. It's almost always part of these remixes or like larger playlists. That is one thing that is definitely carried forward from the series.
Yeah, and I mean that's honestly what I have to say about Pilotwings. It's we look for things like this for our live shows because we have less time than we usually do, and it ends up making sense.
Yeah.
So we've got a little bit of extra time. If anybody has any questions or anything, you let us know.
Yeah, about Pilotwings or about retro games, things we've covered in general.
Yeah.
Those can work as well.
If not, is also okay. But if anybody has any questions, going once, twice. All right, that's fine. So we're here tabling, as we said. We're doing a contest, as we mentioned. It is Flight Area 4, the highest score that you can get. The winner gets a quadcopter drone. We're in Section K on the map, which is a hallway. If you leave here and take a right. If you like the show already, come by and get some buttons and stickers. If you haven't seen the show and you decide you like it, come by and get some buttons and stickers. Love to see you. And don't be discouraged, but somebody came up and just slayed it on Pilotwings, who was a pilot. Today, like the one person who's been waiting his whole life for a tournament for Pilotwings, and he said that. He's like, there's never Pilotwings tournaments of these things. It's always Smash Brothers and like Tetris. Came up and just like his score is like 390 or something.
It's like 370, which is ridiculous.
Really good.
The next highest, our pilot, he got a 330.
Yes.
Yeah.
So don't be discouraged, but you won't win. And it's okay because the journey is good.
Yeah.
Which is what I think Pilotwings has taught us.
We got to share the good times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we would love to meet with you. Come to us. Meet us at the table. And thank you so much for coming
Thank
out.
you very much. If you want to find out more about us, if you are not familiar, go to duckfeed.tv.
Yes, we are a whole network of shows. Watch Out for Fireballs is just one of them. There's probably something there that you will like, and probably something there that will confuse you.
And the only reason why we're able to do these live shows is because we are listener supported. If you go to patreon.com/duckfeedtv, that's how we're able to do this stuff. Generous listeners. So thank you to those who eventually hear this. And
All right. So thank you.
And that's the end of this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, going back to 2017 at the Midwest Gaming Classic, looking at what was going on with the Nintendo PlayStation prototype and the Watch Out for Fireballs podcast. And until next week, take care, stay safe, and game on.